It is Locked On NBA Game Night for Tuesday, January 22nd. Coming up, the Suns may have just signaled to the rest of the NBA that a Jimmy Butler trade is coming.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However, you might be tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Got a great show for you today. Jalen Brunson went crazy when the Knicks needed him most, and a couple of highly coveted trade targets may have just increased their trade value. But we're going to start in Miami, where the Heat lost to the Trailblazers 116-107. But the main story concerning the Heat came before tip-off, when Shams Charania from ESPN reported that the Phoenix Suns have traded their unprotected 2031 first to the Utah Jazz for three not as good first-round picks, but nonetheless could grease the wheels in a Jimmy Butler trade. Many are seeing this as the first step to the Suns acquiring Jimmy Butler. Tony, what was your reaction when you first saw the news?
Yeah, that was the first step. The second step was Jimmy Butler wearing decidedly Suns-colored shoes to play for the Miami Heat in this game. Yeah, I mean, one of those picks is the Cavs pick this year, most likely, which is like the worst possible first-round pick you can get. So it's good for the Suns in that they can trade because the years of the first they got, they can now trade like various different combinations of first, not specifically those three. But I think on balance, they traded one first for three very terrible firsts, and it's a bad value trade. But if it does allow you to send stuff various directions with your other picks, or just put together a different package that does allow you to get Jimmy Butler, that becomes more worth it. It opens up creativity, is how I would describe it. And so because of the value loss, I would say that that's not something you do unless you're pretty sure that something is about to wiggle free or come your way. And it does sound like, for Shams reporting basically all week, that is potentially coming. And it does seem like by Jimmy Butler going 4 for 9 and being a -19 and a 9-point loss, that he may be ready with his shoes to go play for the Phoenix Suns as well.
Yeah, it's a classic lose the battle, win the war type of trade, right?
Yeah.
Where Danny Ainge, great for him. Again, just an Ainge classic, shorting the future of another team, grabs that 2031 unprotected first from Phoenix, which is one of the most valuable trade assets that is out there. And if you're the Suns, you go, okay, yeah, we lose that. We really expose ourselves in the future, but we think maybe no, that if we get these three first, now we can this is going to be a trade package that's going to involve 3, 4, 5 teams. It's been reported could potentially be involved in a Jimmy Butler trade. And so, yeah, just having that one first-round pick wasn't going to be enough to satisfy all the different – you have to feed a lot of different mouths, right? And just one first-round pick wasn't going to take care of it. So you sort of slice that first-round pick up, and now you have just a little bit of sweetener for everybody to potentially satisfy some of these trade packages. And, you know, one of them is going to have to go with Bradley Beal, presumably. Another one will probably have to go to Miami so that they could say, hey, we got a first-round pick or two after trading Jimmy Butler away. So I think it was fairly creative, but I agree with you, Tony. Like you are so exposed now if you're the Suns in 2031 to an embarrassing degree that you don't do this unless you're 99.9% sure you're getting Jimmy Butler. Like I don't see another way that you do this unless you know if we do this, then this next thing happens, and this next thing happens, and then we get Jimmy.
Yeah, to be more clear about how I think this helps them, like they have, let's say, Cleveland's pick this year, and then they have their own in 26, and then they have Utah's in 27, and their own in 28. So not only is the 2031 pick they traded to Utah good, that 2030 pick is now available to move to, and 28. Like if you're continuing to talk about teams shorting the future of the Suns, they could keep doing that to increase the trade value they can send out to coax someone to take Beal. I was running through this with somebody earlier. I'm going to read you. This is not the most exciting thing of all time, but all of the following teams own a future Suns pick. The Rockets, Nets, Jazz, presumably Heat, Wizards, Magic, and Pacers.
Wow.
All own either a swap or future Suns pick right now. And I think Memphis also, and then Charlotte just got one. Like almost a third of the league is like, yeah, we're betting against the Suns. So why not double down if you're Phoenix, right? So
I love that. We got to come up with a name for that club, like just like the Eclipse or something, like the Eclipse Club or something. I don't know what it would be.
every team trying to beat the Suns mercilessly as soon as this era ends. But like because of that, they have to go all in. They don't really have. Everybody says like, oh, they should pivot out of this. Like, yeah, I guess, but they're still kind of screwed. Like they're not going to recoup all of that, you know. So it's just like I guess keep trying. Maybe it works out.
At the risk of looking ahead too far, they already get Nick Richards up and down, first couple of games for Phoenix. If you add Jimmy Butler to this group, you subtract Bradley Beal, you're looking at a starting lineup: Tyus Jones, Devin Booker, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Nick Richards, a couple of decent guys coming off the bench for them. Like, does that change the way you think of Phoenix in the West?
Yeah. Yes. Totally. I mean, I don't know what to make of Jimmy right now. You would know this better than anybody, like his level of player, but Beal isn't as good as him, even right now, and is a bad fit. Bad fit. It said everything about what they think of Bradley Beal as a creator. They were like, yeah, we want 2 point guards this summer. We want Monte Morris and Tyus Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they believe that he can initiate, and he's never going to have the ball otherwise because they have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So like, he's just a disaster fit, just on fit. Even if you think that Bradley Beal and Jimmy Butler are even talents, which I think is crazy right now, but even if you think that's the case, Jimmy Butler's a way better fit. So I think they become a much better team, but it might be too late for that to matter this year is another problem.
So they're 3 games out of the 5 seed right now with half a season left to play. Like that's not impossible to make up at all, especially if you look, we're talking about being behind Minnesota, Sacramento, Dallas, the Lakers, and the Clippers. I think the top 4 in the West are fairly set, at least in some order, between Oklahoma City, Houston, Memphis, and Denver. So I'm with you. I think this changes things quite a bit for them, and I would have them pretty firmly in the top 6, right? Like I remember even when the Warriors swapped out D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins, and you look at that and you're like, I don't know, like whatever. It's sort of just it's a fit trade for both teams involved. And for Phoenix, Jimmy Butler is better than Bradley Beal. I agree with you on that. But just having a cleaner fit really does sort of set other gears in motion and has a domino effect across the rest of the roster. Right now, they're relying on Ryan Dunn to basically be their best perimeter defender, and he's very inconsistent offensively, to put it nicely. And where Jimmy Butler can come in, he can guard the best guy, the best perimeter guy on the other end. He could play make for you. I mean, he would probably walk in as their best passer outside of Tyus Jones, right?
Yeah.
You would just walk in and be that guy right away. A really good playmaker, unselfish, doesn't even really want to score, like does all these other things at such a high level, and he's so efficient and he's physical, and he would provide like a physical backbone to this Phoenix Suns team that they just don't really have, and that Bradley Beal clearly was not providing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've said this a lot about the Suns. Like, what are they trying to do? I don't know what they're trying to do a lot of games. Like, they can't guard anybody. They play really slow. Like, if Kevin Durant and Devin Booker don't go crazy, they just lose. Like, it's not fun or interesting or sustainable. Like last year, those guys were better and they got the 6th seed and got swept. Like, okay, cool. That who cares?
Yep.
What happened to the Heat and Jimmy Butler tonight, Wes? Why'd they lose this game? Give me like 10 seconds on this.
They missed 19 straight 3-pointers between the second and third quarter.
Okay.
So that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Did get our first look at the Bam Adebayo Khalil Ware starting front court, which again, you lose to the Trailblazers.
Khalil looks awesome.
Be that excited about it, but he looked great.
Looks awesome.
He did 20 points, 15 rebounds. Meanwhile, the Knicks escaped with a win in Brooklyn. But that was the best possible result for the Nets. We'll explain after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and the excitement were unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets for the Green Day concert that I mentioned earlier. I used Game Time. And that app with the Game Time Picks, I found an amazing deal and could even see the view from my seat before buying my tickets. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats on unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast app. The Nets played a tough game and had the lead late in the fourth quarter, but ultimately could not hold off the New York Knicks, falling 99-95. Jalen Brunson was clutch down the stretch. 6 straight points after Brooklyn took a 90-89 lead with 2.5 minutes to go. Hit the final 2 free throws to seal the deal with 7 seconds remaining. Brunson finished with just 17 points, so it wasn't the best night overall for him, but he was big when they needed him to. Karl-Anthony Towns carried the Knicks for the most part. 25 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. But Tony, what did you see from Jalen Brunson at the end of this one?
Stunningly fun ending that I got to about when you described the Nets taking that 90-89 lead. At the time, to set the scene, there are 2.5 minutes to go in the game. That means almost 10 minutes have passed in the fourth quarter. The Knicks have made 2 shots in the whole quarter to that point in time. And here comes Jalen Brunson to just steady diet, mid-range, drive you to death Brooklyn Nets. Poor guys played great for 46 minutes. Did not matter. Jalen Brunson was just better. He made half of the Knicks shots in the fourth quarter and scored over half their points on this clutch stretch where, like you said, he scored all those 8 points and then got a rebound and threw it ahead to Josh Hart, who flipped it to Anunoby for the other basket. So a hockey assist. He basically did everything in the clutch, and Cam Johnson missed a 3 that gave the Nets their last chance to take the lead with about 15 seconds to go. Credit to the Nets, who you're about to say the right thing about. This is the exact kind of result they wanted, but Jalen Brunson makes it so. I think this is 7 straight Big Apple wins in this matchup for the Knicks.
So this is part of rivalry week.
It's a hard one to say.
I've had that problem. I hate that. The old RW. Is this a rivalry?
No. It's like what's the meme that's like, I don't think about you at all. Like that,
right,
the Nets think about the Knicks all the time, and the Knicks don't think about the Nets at all. It's that, right? It has to be.
It's worse than Clippers Lakers in terms of exactly.
I feel bad. Like, I don't know how much of this you watch, but like Jalen Brunson is scoring in the fourth quarter. This game's in Barclays, and like there are cheers. It's
like, the crowd's going crazy.
Oh, that's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, if you're a Knicks fan, you say you're just waiting for the couple of games that happen in Brooklyn, then you're like,
they're
these
cheaper.
tickets are way cheaper. Yeah, just I'll do that one. And that arena is almost like, I think, a little bit easier to get to than the one in Madison Square Garden. But yeah, it's barely a rivalry. I wasn't even totally sure what was going. Is like Miami and Portland a rivalry? Is that part of rivalry week? Is that just because Joe Cronin hates the Miami Heat? Is that what's going on?
There are 2 Pacers Spurs games this week. You haven't talked about that rivalry with your friends recently?
Oh, those classic Spurs Pacers games of yore. Yeah. Like, I just like what. I'm not totally sure what it is. Michael Malone was talking about. He was asked about rivalry week from Locked On Nuggets host Ryan Blackburn. He was like, "Are you excited for rivalry week?" And Michael Malone was like, "What are you talking about?" And the NBA is like, and Ryan was like, "Oh, it's rivalry week." And Michael Malone was like, "Yeah, I guess so," and just like walked off. And I was like, "This doesn't make any sense." That said, it was a good game for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
Why? Even though they lost, let's get their perspective. Here's Locked On Nets host Adam Arbrecht.
Victories, but even in losing 99-95 to the crosstown New York Knicks, the Nets kind of won. Because yes, Mikal Bridges came back to Barclays Center and he got his thank you video for all of the draft picks. But in the process, he was met at the rim by Day'Ron Sharpe, who stuffed him back. And in the same sequence on the other end, Noah Clowney threw it down. That's all that you want, is a couple of little moments. We're not looking for wins, really. We know what the agenda is this season. But make it hard on the Knicks. Don't give them an easy night. Don't let Jalen Brunson play only 20 to 25 minutes and rest late in it. No, grind it out. Show some of that grit we remember from the previous iteration of the D'Angelo Russell-led Brooklyn Nets. Cam Johnson shows he's still valuable and ready to go when those trade calls start coming in. And with a couple of other teams winning on Tuesday, the Nets are just a half game out from the 5th best odds in the Tankathon standings. And those, my friends, are the only standings that matter for Brooklyn.
7th worst record in the NBA right now. The Brooklyn Nets have. They are 1-9 in their last 10 games, only outdone by the phenomenally well tanking Washington Wizards.
I'll give you a lock that the Nets finish with a bottom 4 record. There's no way they don't get below 3 more teams. It's sad. I mean,
you
it's
look
like
at
intentionally sad, but it's sad.
Charlotte's won 3 in a row. New Orleans has won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Even Toronto got a win tonight, which we'll talk about here a little bit. It looks like it's Washington, Utah, and Brooklyn that are the most motivated to be really, really bad.
Yeah,
and
totally agree.
Usually where there's a will, there's a way, as we're seeing with the Phoenix Suns, Jimmy Butler, and these teams that won Cooper Flag.
Nick Claxton's got to get his stuff together. That's the only Nets thing I have besides everything Adam said. Like, yeah, Cam Johnson's got some value. All their young guys are doing stuff. D'Lo's probably a trade piece, but Nick Claxton's been kind of rough this year. He needs to play a little better.
Claxton's one of these guys who I think just needs to be on a better team in order to thrive, right? He's what was it, 2 years ago? He was awesome defensively, and he's sort of fallen off ever since Brooklyn stopped caring. And that was really it. D'Angelo Russell is having a great time, though. He had a quote the other day talking about he will never take for granted playing this free ever again. Dude, your team stinks. That's why you get to play so free.
There's something to be said about that. Like, do you want to be the NBA player? Just like, yeah, I get 23 and 10 whenever I want, but we go 30 and 52. But that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the check still clears. Why not? Right? No, but to the Cam Johnson point also, like, I don't think anybody should be untouchable on this team. Cam Johnson seems like he's the most available. It wasn't the best night for him. It was 16 points, but on 20 shots. It was pretty rough for him overall. Everybody knows what he is. I tend to think I'm starting to get a little dubious that he's going to get traded. It almost feels like
yes, I have noise. This take too.
You do? Okay. There's too much noise coming out of Brooklyn on how everybody wants him.
Okay, that is part of it. The other thing is, like, Finney-Smith and Schroeder either had an expiring contract or a player option. Like, Cam Johnson has a lot of time left on his deal. It's not like they have to rush into this right this second. Like, it makes all the sense in the world for them to be like, he's super available. Everybody hurry. Like, they could just pretend he's hurt a lot down the stretch and then figure it out in the summer, figure it out next. Like, there's no rush for them to do it. They're not good enough now. It doesn't matter.
That's a great point. And also, Finney-Smith was on a good contract that was expiring. You're not tied into, long term.
Right.
Schroeder, ditto, same thing. This Cam Johnson contract isn't an awesome contract. He's making over $20 million a year. Bobby Marks had this tweet the other day, like, of all the trades that have happened, nobody's made more than $20 million a year. They're all below $20 million. Now, nobody gets traded making more than $20 million until somebody gets traded making more than $20 million. And then all of a sudden that tweet doesn't matter anymore. But like, it's not an awesome contract. There's not like a ton of teams I think that are out there. I'm like, yeah, let's sign up for $20+ million for Cam Johnson. When this is sort of like, he's fine. I don't know, but it's a little too suspicious for me to think that, oh yeah, there's half the league is clamoring to throw multiple first-round picks to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson, but we'll see. I'd rather have Claxton. I think Noah Clowney's really interesting.
Love Clowney.
Right? I think Daron Sharp has quite a bit of trade value. He had a pretty nice game in this one with 10 points. So we'll see what happens there. Coming up, 2 players on the trade market, speaking of, are upping their trade value on a night where Cam Johnson didn't exactly help it. They're doing so right before the trade deadline. What could it mean for the Toronto Raptors? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Game Night every game, every night your first listen. Last 3 games from this Tuesday night. We're going to start in Denver where the Nuggets beat the 76ers 144-109. That's what we call a blowout, folks. Nikola Jokic recorded his 4th straight triple-double. There's a lot of numbers there. Nikola Jokic has had a triple-double in 4 straight games, 27 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists in this one. And this one was over pretty quickly. Denver had 93 points 4 minutes into the third quarter. They couldn't miss. Strother specifically, 4 3-pointers in the second quarter. Jokic got a putback over 4 different Philadelphia 76ers, which was my highlight of this game. But worth mentioning, Tony, no Joel Embiid and no Paul George in this one. Wait, I'm sorry. The box score says there was a Paul George in this game. Did you notice him out there?
He was passing a lot. He wasn't doing a lot of putting the ball in the basket himself in this game. He had a sick one-handed setup of a hockey assist in the first quarter. No, not noticeable. You know who was noticeable in the Sixers, Wes? Nobody. I mean, Tyrese Maxey did some scoring, but they weren't trying. They were not trying in this game. Their transition defense was awful. Do you think of the Nuggets as a fast-paced team? They had 37 fast break points. They had 18 in the first quarter. Nick Nurse blasted them post-game. He did the TNT coach interview with Allie LaForce. It was like, yo, we got to make layups and get back on defense. Like, they weren't trying. It was terrible. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey for, like, doing some stuff. And Yabusele hit 4 threes. But, like, oh, my gosh, they look sad and pathetic right now. It was embarrassing. The Nuggets boat raced them.
What a lost season for Philly.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Like, when Embiid's not out there, you could just tell everybody looks around and just like, man, what's the point? Everybody just sort of shrugs and says, what's the point? What are we doing? We're in Denver. Like, is there a good steakhouse or something that we can go to after? Like, nobody cares.
I, for one, Wes, am stunned that Joel Embiid did not play against the Denver Nuggets. That never happens. In fact, I had to look this up because it's rivalry week. Joel Embiid has played against every team in the NBA 10 times except for 3 teams. And one of them is the Denver Nuggets, who he has played against 9 times. The other 2 being the Dallas Mavericks and Sacramento Kings for some reason. So maybe the Jokic beef extends to the Mavs and Kings, but still, he doesn't play against the Nuggets very much. And there's a chance that after this season, the Nuggets are his least played opponent, despite everybody really wanting to see Jokic versus Embiid.
It's absolutely crazy. You could blame the altitude, I suppose, for a guy who has injury problems and conditioning issues.
Yeah.
But he's like, what? But Nuggets fans will say, no, he ducks Jokic every single time. This is no longer going to be this is the last time it's a rivalry. It's a fake rivalry because, like you said, the main guy who's ostensibly the reason for this rivalry, or at least half of the reason for it, if it's Embiid versus Jokic, these 2 MVP candidates, if he's not going to play in these games, these aren't going to be rivalries. But also because it doesn't seem like that part of Embiid's career is like, it feels like we've kind of turned a new page almost in this career. I don't know if he's going to be on MVP ballots ever again, and if that's the case, Michael Malone will have to get used to not getting to play the 76ers on rivalry week anymore. But let's go to Toronto where the Raptors. Go ahead.
Shout out to Julian Strawther. Holy smokes, was he awesome in this game? And that's like exactly what the Nuggets need from a 5th or 6th rotation player, a guy who can really shoot it and move it. 23 points. He had like 16 of them or something in the second quarter. He was awesome. Anyway, yes, let's go to a game where nobody could score, unlike Julian Strawther.
Raptors beat the Magic 109-93. Here's Sean Woodley from Locked On Raptors with more on what happened.
Fine buyers, come on down. Sean Woodley here from Locked On Raptors is talking about the Raptors taking down the Orlando Magic 109-93 on Tuesday night. In a game the Raptors started down 32-11 in the first quarter and then completely ran Orlando off the floor for the rest of the game after that. And 2 guys who really helped turn the tide after the Raptors starters laid a big old egg in the first quarter, Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. Kelly Olynyk in this game has just 12 points and a few boards, a few assists, but he had 4 blocks. Did not know he had the hops to get 4 blocks in a month, let alone a game. Pretty impressive stuff from KO. And he was a plus 39 in 22 minutes. Plus 39! Crazy stuff from KO. Easily his best game as a Toronto Raptor. Bruce Brown, meanwhile, came off the bench with a tidy 15-5-5 in 25 minutes. Really effective stuff from him. He's been pretty good the last couple times out, averaging 16 over his last 2 games. Both those guys figure to be among the players the Raptors could trade before the deadline in a couple weeks. And the price is going up, baby.
Is the price going up? Are Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown the kind of guys who could be different, like real difference makers, the way that even like Gafford and PJ Washington were last year for Dallas?
They're close, I think. I mean, I think he nailed the analysis game. I tweeted during the third quarter, watching the Kelly Olynyk Bruce Brown duo give defenses fits and wondering, hey, A, how, and B, why I am watching Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. It was that kind of game. The third quarter, Kelly Olynyk had 3 blocks and 7 points, and Bruce Brown had 3 assists. What year is it? They were hooping against a crummy Magic team. But yeah, I mean, I think like Olynyk fetched a first last year. Technically, it was with Abaji, right? So like young player plus Olynyk equals first. Like I kind of think that kind of thing could be available to Toronto. I think their best shot of this is something we mentioned earlier, them being involved in some sort of Suns-y thing or big salary thing and using those 2 guys to get big assets in return and maybe taking on some money from another team, and that's a noble way to get a first, right? They are worth definitely a first in that way. Neither of them are on bad or long contracts, right? And they could certainly help. Like Bruce Brown's helped the champion, Kelly Olynyk's helped some good teams prior to the last couple of years. So I think there's something to them having like late first, early second kind of value, but it's hard when you got to match salaries at some point.
It's a great call, right? Brown is making more than $20 million. Olynyk is making 12 plus. And so, yeah, those aren't the easiest deals to move all the time. Maybe they do get involved. Olynyk has one more year left on his contract after this. Brown isn't expiring. I think there's a lot of value to the right team there. And so maybe like they go to Miami, Chris Middleton in a big trade that involves the Bucks goes to Toronto. And then you end up just basically, if you're the Raptors, doing what Sam Presti had done for years, this little paperclip game of, yeah, we'll trade you our expiring contracts as long as you give us some draft capital. We'll take a longer term contract. And then they turn around a year from now and then they trade that, what is then an expiring contract, for more picks. And it just seems like that's what they're doing as they sort of build around Scotty Barnes and whatever else they got going on. Good game for RJ Barrett in this game.
Scotty crushed late second quarter. That saved the Raptors. They were getting killed. But 2 seconds on the Magic. They had 8 available players because Jonathan Isaac was sick and left really early in this game. So like no harm, no foul in losing when that's all you have. I love Anthony Black. And so watching him play was fun. The Magic are not playing well at all. This is their 4th straight loss. They're 3-7 in their last 10, half a game out of 9th in the East. They were really churning, surviving these injuries for a long time, but they're out of time. And Franz has clearly shown that he's, at least this year, been their most impactful player. They need, I said this with you last week about the Mavs, like they need to they have an easy schedule coming up. Like they need to take advantage of it because they're getting close to the danger zone, even though everybody knows why they're there. They just need to get out of it.
Yeah, and it'd be easy to like, it's like no Franz Wagner. That's a really big deal. They are down to basically one center. And Jonathan Isaac, as good as he is defensively, is not a center. And so you've got Wendell Carter Jr. there. They've lost Goga Batadze, no Mo Wagner for the rest of the season. So they're really down on a really big part of what they do is being big and physical, and being without 2 of your biggest, most physical guys has really sort of taken their character away, and it's understandable why. I mean, there's just you can only overcome so many injuries, and
they can't score and they can't shoot, and that physical
no Jalen Suggs in this game either.
Exactly, now it can.
Yeah. Last one here in Los Angeles, the Lakers beat the Wizards 111-88. The big 3 for the Lakers got it done. LeBron, 21 points, 13 assists. Anthony Davis, 29 points, 16 rebounds, and Austin Reeves, 16 points and 8 assists. Dorian Finney-Smith saw his minutes restriction tick up a little bit. It was at 20 minutes. JJ Redick before the game said they're going to go up to 24. He had a good game overall also. And we even got the Bronny James victory cigar in this one, Tony. Anything stick out to you in this one?
No, the Wizards are bad. It's hard to take away a lot from their games at this stage. I mean, unless Bilal does something interesting, there's not a lot I enjoy watching about the Wizards these days. It's nice to see that Dorian can do stuff for this Lakers team, though. It's kind of what they needed. I like that trade for them, and it's kind of working out well. And if Gabe Vincent can get healthy and play 25 solid minutes tonight, like that would help them a lot too with some ball handling. So some stuff that they can look back on and go, yeah, that's a nice win, and they need it. The West is really tight, but outside of LeBron doing triple-double stuff at his age, I have nothing to say about anybody beating the Wizards these days.
Yeah, going bigger picture, I have one trend and one LeBron James stat here for you. Austin Reeves, he's just been playing really well since they traded D'Angelo Russell. He's up to 18 points per game, and the efficiency is starting to tick up. He's really being involved more as a playmaker. That LeBron-Austin Reeves pick and roll is still the bread and butter of that offense, or at least part of that, one of the main courses on the menu. And so that's been great for them. And then LeBron James has moved up to number 7 on the all-time steals list. He has more than 2,000. He has 2,308. So he's just surpassed Scottie Pippen.
Hey, he could have been the sidekick the whole time. Why aren't the Wizards playing Justin Champagnie and Jared Butler? They're good players. They combined for 2 minutes and 47 seconds in this game. That is the extent of my Wizards thoughts. LeBron.
That's the problem. Play those guys, they'd be in the playoffs. That wraps up Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.